A terrifying, ghostly encounter that may also have you going, ha 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 ha, that's pretty funny. And then we take a look at the conspiracy theory involving Red Letter Media, a group of YouTubers who have spent over a decade, almost 20 years at this point, making fun of bad movies. But as their YouTube audience and their power within Hollywood grew, is it possible that a shadowy organization set their eyes upon these three young men and wanted to use their YouTube channel to drench the earth in human blood? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. So first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for Elky. Woohoo, yeah, we, haha, giant elk comes running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, stepping on us. Ow, ow. We're clapping, we're celebrating your elkness. Elky's been a long-time supporter of the show. That is why they are going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Let's go ahead and get this party started. Everyone climb on board the Dead Rabbit dirigible. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you blimp us all the way out to Oregon? Nice leisurely ride all the way out to Oregon. It's the state I reside in, but we're going farther west. We're headed out to Gail's Creek, Oregon. It's an unincorporated county a few miles outside of Portland. Elky lands the dirigible and we're out walking around. It's late at night. We see all the locals, they're like hurrying their bags into their houses. Come on, Judy, hurry up. Get the groceries in. I'm trying, Tyler, I'm trying. Come on. I'm doing all the work. I'm holding the door open. Hurry up. As his wife is carrying in bags of potatoes, he's like, oh man, we went to the heavy food store because I only eat really dense heavy foods. She runs in with 8 bags of potatoes in her arms. We look across the street and we see a little kid on a tricycle. And Dad runs out and he goes, Billy, get off that tricycle. Don't you know what time it is? And he's like, no, I'm a kid. I barely understand what gravity is. I don't know what time is. Dad picks the kid up, leaves the tricycle laying on the sidewalk. We're watching everyone run into their homes, shut their blinds. Eventually, we're the only ones on this road, known as a guard road. On most nights, not every night, but more often than normal ghost sightings, between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., there is a ghostly sight that is reported on this road. You're like, who's bringing in bags of potatoes at 2 in the morning? Yeah, I didn't know it took place so late at night. The little kid's out tricycling at 2 in the morning. Between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., if you find yourself on a guard road, you may see near the road there's a creek, a little babbling brook. Crickets making noises, frogs ribbiting. That's not why we're here. We're here for him, and I point, and you see underneath the tree, sitting on the ground, there's a man wearing a flannel shirt and pants, probably. They don't say that he's wearing pants. They always say he's wearing a flannel shirt. But I think we can assume. Because if he wasn't wearing pants, they would definitely notate in that ghost story. Hell yeah, no, he always wears a flannel shirt and nothing else. He's buck naked from the waist down. Probably wearing jeans or something like that. But he's sitting on the ground and he's fishing in the creek. He's fishing in the creek with a pipe in his mouth, just enjoying his day. Or night. But he's dead. It's a ghost. Just some bum. You're like, oh, is this just some bum? Everyone's running away. They're like, look out. Here comes Laszlo, the homeless man. They do call him Laszlo. That's his name. But he sits there under a tree and it's a ghost. He just materializes most nights and sits there and fishes in the creek, smoking a pipe. Could you imagine a better afterlife than that? I mean, I guess you probably could. You're like, yes, eternal paradise. Kind of ranks up pretty high, Jason. Well, yeah, I mean, okay, sure. But other than that, other than complete oneness with the universe, fishing. Now, I'm not a fisher myself. I'm not a fisherman myself. But, if it would be boring to me, but if you really loved fishing, this would be the perfect afterlife. I'm sure if you went into a fisherman's house, he probably has posters like saying, "I'll fish when I'm dead," and "I'll fish now. I'm fishing all the time." Or slogans like, "I can't wait till I'm 6 feet under so I can deep sea fish." You're like, buddy, do you have something to tell me? Are you like hoping to die? Are you planning on committing suicide? As a poster, it's a noose, but then it's actually a fish. It's a noose in the shape of a fish. You're like, dude, I think we need to talk. That's not normal. You drew that, didn't you? That's hand painted. Come on, man. You know, people who are into fishing, they'll say stuff like that, right? "I can't wait till I stop working so I can fish. And I can't wait till I stop living so I can fish deep underground." What are you talking about? I figure you're going to bury me with my fishing pole, and then my zombie corpse is going to dig out of the grave and fish in underwater caverns where no fish have ever been caught before. They don't know. The hook means danger. Listen, you know what I mean. They don't get that extreme, but now I really hope someday I meet a guy who's so aggressive about fishing when he's dead. "I'll fish more when I'm dead." We've all seen those bumper stickers. You're like, no, Jason. None of those ever existed. What type of maniacs have you been hanging out with? You know what I mean? People who have like really particular hobbies. I'm sure bird watchers are like watching a bird and they're like, "You know what? This is cool and all. I got my binoculars and I just saw a yellow-bellied woodpecker. But if I was dead, I would possess that woodpecker and feel what it feels like to bang my head at max speed into a piece of wood and eat a bug." People have hobbies so much that they claim they're still going to do them after they die. That's what I'm getting at. Not that they want to die. Not that they go bird watching. You're like, "Oh, look I'm standing right next to this cliff and I'm looking through binoculars. Life insurance should cover that if I take one more step forward. I'm one of you now, birds." I'm not saying you'll kill yourself so you'll be better at your hobby. People who love certain hobbies, they go, "I hope I can be able to continue this when I'm dead." And most of them don't. Most of them die. And, you know, they can have the afterlife, but they're up in heaven and they're like, "What? No fish?" And you're like, "Yeah, there's no fish up here." Everything else, "Hey, you want to meet an alien? We got a lot of space aliens." Are they fish aliens? No fish at all up here. Even the fish aliens don't get to come up. You're like, "Oh man, what about Cthulhu? Is he up here?" Nope. Too fish-like. But Laszlo gets to. Laszlo died decades ago, and yet most mornings people see him. Between 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., you may see a man sitting out there with a fishing pole, fishing. But that's not all. That would be a little heartwarming. There's another element to this haunting. If you look and you see Laszlo fishing in this creek, that's on one side of the street. But if you turn your head slightly so you can see the other side of the street, you'll see his wife, Helen. And she's also a ghost. She's standing there across the street with her arms crossed, looking at Laszlo with an annoyed expression on her face. Now that's not fun. Right? That's no fun. I mean, maybe her hobby is being annoyed, but I don't think her hobby was being annoyed. I think she was just so annoyed at her husband Laszlo for fishing all the time that she left an indelible mark. Which does suck, right? It kind of changes the idea of the haunting. Like, yeah, you're fishing forever, but look at your poor wife over there, Laszlo. Look, we won't look. He's like, "No, man, I don't want to look at it. I'm looking at the fish." He kind of brought her along on this haunted journey. He's having a ball, smoking his pipe, fishing. Well, she has a annoyed look on her face. "Laszlo, get over here." She doesn't say that, right? She doesn't say, but she probably did when they were alive. "Laszlo, stop fishing. Stop fishing and come into the house with me. It's 2 a.m. What are you doing up so late? Come on, Laszlo, the bed is cold. I need the embrace of a strong man." "Oh, Laszlo." Crosses her arms and just stares at him. It's interesting because the home that they lived in, and there's been tons of sightings of this. This is really interesting. I'd actually like to get out here, because it does seem to happen a lot. It's a very repeatable haunting. The home that they shared when they were alive has been abandoned since the 1990s. No one's lived in it in quite a long time, but it still is there. And this is a small, unincorporated little town. Town is almost too big of a word for it. It's just like a collection of buildings. which is a town, I know, but I don't want you to think it's like a big town. The building that they lived in has been abandoned since the 1990s. They said when this apparition appears of Laszlo fishing and his wife being annoyed, you can see lights in their house. Not like moving orbs, but actually like a lamp being plugged in. And smoke rising out of the fireplace. So it's basically like a snow globe haunting, which is a term I just made up. But there have been other examples of this, where it's not a ghost, but a location, and not like a haunted house. Like the entire area is infused with this paranormal energy. We're used to solitary ghosts. That's very common. Two ghosts showing up is more uncommon, but this snow globe type haunting is very, very rare, where the entire area lights up. Haunted houses, not literally, sometimes figuratively, but the entire area is paranormal. Haunted houses, there's a ton of accounts of those. There are way more of those than you would ever even have time to read about. But this idea of the haunting also activating the house, it looks warm, it looks lived in, it looks inviting, but it's also part of this haunting. Now, I did try looking up to see if these were real people. I wasn't able to find any record that there was a Helen and a Laszlo living there. However, the people in town seem to all know who these people were in life. The house has been abandoned since the 1990s, but I don't think that's when they died. I think they died previous to that, and someone else moved into the house, and then they moved out, or might have had a succession of owners between the time that Laszlo and Helen died and the time it became abandoned. I think they may have died in the 1990s. This may be a more recent haunting than I'm assuming. I assume that maybe they died in the 50s, but maybe it's more recent. I don't know. But I wasn't able to find any record of it. This could be a case of people seeing apparitions and making up a backstory that's actually super common. Or they could have been such a recognizable couple, and because the house was activated, people knew who used to live there. You may not, but your grandparents who lived in the area knew Laszlo or Helen or both. So when the haunting started, they go, oh, that must be Laszlo. And Laszlo did love to fish. And Helen did love to be annoyed. This could also be a residual haunting, which means you can't interact with the spirits. It's just replaying out a particular moment over and over and over again. An interesting story, but we're still not done. We're still not done with this area. Because if you stay in this region, if you stay in this area, so Gail's Creek, it's right off of a highway, and depending on what source, some people say it's Oregon Route 6, and other places say it's Oregon Route 8. The Northwest Wilson River Highway and the Oregon Route 6 or 8 area, that's where this Gales County location is. You can see Laszlo fishing and his wife being annoyed, but if you go closer to the highway side of this creek that runs through town, this apparition doesn't appear as often. There's not a fixed time period for it. But let's walk over there, guys. We're waving goodbye to Laszlo. He caught us some ghost fish. We're eating it. Yummy! We're turning into ghouls. I mean, I don't really eat normal fish. I don't think I would eat a phantom fish, but maybe, when in Rome, walking around profusely vomiting up ghost guts. We keep walking and we hear a Mom! Dad! Mom! Dad! Mom! Oh, Mommy! And you're like, oh, dude, can we just go back and fish with Laszlo? I go, I know. And we keep walking away from Laszlo towards the sound of someone crying desperately out for their mother or their father to help them. And that's where we get to this place where we have the creek right next to the highway. And we see a little boy standing there. Mommy! Daddy! Mom! Okay, Jason, we get it. Quit doing that. That's terrifying. What we're hearing is a little boy the locals have named Joey, who will appear standing by the creek. His skin is blue. He's wearing blue shorts and a striped t-shirt, and he's dripping wet. Mom! Okay, I'll stop. But anyways, we're looking at it, and he's crying out for his mom and his dad. And you see this boy, right? You're like, oh, dude, did this kid drown? Probably, right? I don't think he won a blueberry eating contest and then died, or lost the blueberry eating contest and then died. He probably drowned. Was he dripping with blueberry juice? Why would you even think that? Because he's blue. He's blue, and he's wearing blue shorts. Maybe it's a little good luck charm for the blueberry eating contest. You see him dripping wet. He's screaming out for his mom and his dad, and your natural inclination is to go help this kid. Now, here's the thing. You go, no, if I saw a screaming wraith from beyond the veil, I'm not going anywhere near him. And that's probably smart advice. But imagine you were just passing through the area and you heard a kid crying out for help and you pulled your car over and rolled down your window and now you can even hear it clearer. You get out of your car, you walk to this creek and you saw a boy standing there. Your first inclination isn't going to be, that's a ghost. I mean, the blue skin would probably be a pretty good indicator, but here's the thing. You might also think he's just really cold. You might just think he got done with a blueberry eating contest. And you want to find out, is there any blueberries left? You're like, because I would like to be runner-up. Your natural reaction would be to run to help someone who is crying out like that. But if you even start to approach him, as he's still wailing for his mom and his dad, he simply turns around and walks up the creek bank and then vanishes before he reaches the top. So even if you do go to help, you never can. And I would argue, I would be very curious if you brought a psychic or a medium out to this location. If Joey, which is not his real name, that's what they've named him, with Laszlo and Helen, we believe those were the names of the real people while they were still alive. But I wasn't able to find any record of them dying. It's funny, now that I think about it, I don't know if I looked to see if there are any records of them being alive in the first place. I should check that out. Sorry about that, but I'll give you guys an update if I'm able to find anything. But apparently those aren't nicknames. The locals knew who they were. With Joey, they don't know who he is. That was a nickname they gave him. I wonder what would happen if a psychic or a medium came out there. Would they be able to contact Joey? Or us physically walking towards him prompts him to leave. If a medium or a psychic tried spiritually or psychically reaching out to him, would he have the same reaction, even if they physically don't move towards him? Generally, though, in the area, whether or not you see Laszlo, Helen, or Joey, people say the area is just kind of creepy overall. Even residents have reported feeling uneasy there. There's often unexplained creepy sounds that people who've lived there for a long time, they don't know what made that noise. And some people even report a constant feeling of being watched. So if you're looking for a place to travel, if you're looking for a place to spend your tourism dollars, think about going to Gail's Creek. Jason, how about not? I don't want to be like, hey, let's take a vacation. You guys ever want to be woken up in the middle of the night by the mourning wails of a little dead boy? No. But don't get a hotel near him. You're like, hey, can I get the room where I'm not going to hear a dead kid screaming for his mom and dad? Oh, yeah, we'll give you the Laszlo suite. It overlooks the creek where you can see Laszlo fishing. You're like, it's much better. It would be interesting to visit there, definitely. And it's not that far away. It's probably, for me, I'm in Hood River, so it's probably like an hour and some change out there. Maybe I'll take a trip out there, do some on-the-ground reporting. That'd be pretty cool. I keep saying I want to do more out on-the-ground stuff, but I just need to buy it. I need to spend some money. It's not a small amount, but get some good gear, get some video cameras, and a shotgun, right? Shotgun. All of my ghost hunting money is weapons. I got this battle axe blessed by a priest. Oh, and then I also got this tape recorder to record EVPs. It would be cool to go out there. Elkie, let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world. Famous Carpenter Copter, we are leaving behind Gail's Creek. Why don't you fly us all the way out to Wisconsin? we're headed out to Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And now we're walking around the streets, and there's just hobos everywhere. They're knifing each other for new knives. They're like, my knife's a little dull, so this is going to hurt more than usual. Give me your new knife. We pass the hobo wars. We get to a place where the streets are running thick with fentanyl fluid. It's like that swamp from the Never-Ending Story. Don't get sad. Don't get sad. You'll sink in it. No. You're all swimming in it. I love fentanyl, Jason. It's my favorite drug. We're knee deep in the sea of fentanyl. We get past that. We lose a couple. Right? To be honest, not all of you guys make it out of the fentanyl ocean. We get past that. We're continuing to walk. We walk through the burning district, just buildings on fire, ash constantly raining down from the sky. You know, normal Milwaukee stuff. But after all of those trials, we're approaching the worst part of Milwaukee. We've proven ourselves. We are true Wisconsinites. But this area is too bad even for the most jaded of cheese eaters. Is that the state where they eat cheese? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Milwaukee may be a lovely city, but I don't think so. Because no city could be lovely if it would house a den of iniquity, as such we are about to enter. There's an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the worst areas of town. We go to kick down the door, but it's rusted to pieces. We just walk through it. We're all getting on tetanus. This is a very dangerous episode. Half of us have to go to rehab afterwards. All of us have to get shots. But we finally enter the studio of Red Letter Media. And studio is a bit of a fancy word. There's basically two sections of this location. There's a room with two red couches in it. Is this some snuff thing? Is this some snuff video you brought us to? Well, it's funny you asked that because there are video cassettes everywhere. But if you look closely, you notice they're all like blockbuster movies. Like movies you can normally rent at a video rental store. Some of them may be snuff, I don't know. But we're in this room and it's a dark room with two red couches and there's a bunch of VHS tapes around the walls. And then we go into another room and it's filled with even more VHS cassettes. And then we go into a third room. There was only two, I forgot. But anyways, we go into a third room and it's basically just an empty warehouse space with a backdrop and a table in it and a couple of chairs. Here's the thing. It looks like where you would shoot a porno at best, right? At best, and a snuff film at worst. But Red Letter Media is really, really interesting, and I know half of you guys are very, very well aware who Red Letter Media is. You're huge fans. Some of you guys know who they are, but you don't really like them, and then a lot of you have no idea who they are. So let me give you a quick introduction to set up this conspiracy theory that, if it is true, has some pretty big ramifications for the world of conspiracy theory in general. Red Letter Media is a channel that's made up of three main people. Mike Stolkasa, I think might be how you say his name, but probably not. Jay something, I don't remember what his last name was. And Rich Evans. And these three guys, I consider them the last normal people to make it on YouTube. And when I mean make it, these were three guys who loved to film, and they have other friends. They have a guy named Jack who shows up from time to time, and they have their Canadian friends that show up from time to time. But they're the last group of normal people that made it big in the culture from a YouTube channel. When you look at people like PewDiePie or Fred, you remember Fred? You're like, no, he was the kid with the really high-pitched voice. You're like, oh yeah, I intentionally forgot him. You had PewDiePie, you had Fred, you had Red Letter Media. You had this time period where truly you could take a normal person, and not only could they make it on YouTube, which you can still do that today, but to be normal and start a YouTube channel because you're having fun creating content, and then being a recognizable name in the entertainment industry, that is pretty much gone. People like Mr. Beast, all of that stuff is manufactured. He was a normal guy in the sense that he came out of his mother's womb, yes, and he had a normal childhood. But that channel and so many of the channels that are big in the world are cultivated by outside forces. They either have entertainment managers that are watching everything that they do and helping them do all of this stuff and getting them out there and getting their publicists and all of that. That is the new way to go forward. PewDiePie just recording videos, talking about things and playing video games, and becoming a pivotal figure in the pop culture of his generation, that's gone. Because even if you created stellar content, you're getting drowned out by these media-driven machines. And Red Letter Media was the last of them who got in. Because they're movie reviewers. They sit around, they make fun of movies. They celebrate movies that they really, really love. But they have programs like Best of the Worst, where they get 3 random bad movies and they watch them and they vote which was the best of these bad movies. That's one of their signature series. They do Half in the Bag, which is a series about just movie reviews, new movie reviews. Most famously, though, and this is what launched them to success, their channel had been around for a bit. They did a couple full-length movie commentaries, not full-length, they do these long commentaries on movies. Mike, Jay, and Rich put together a 1.5 hour long video explaining why the Phantom Menace sucked. And it came out at just the right time where the geek media sphere, like Gizmodo and Topless Robot and Cracked and all this stuff, were hungry for content, hungry for articles to write things about. And you had this group of guys in Milwaukee make this. It was novel that there was a commentary video as long as the original movie. And back then, YouTube, you had to watch it. You only had a 10-minute max on videos. So you had to watch it spread out over 7 videos or whatever it was, 14 videos. And that's how I found out about it in the geek news sphere, and I went and I watched it, and I was highly entertained. They have like a storyline going through it, and it just gave you food for thought. So that blew them up. And then they did one for the Clone... What was the second movie? Attack of the Clones, and then they did one for Revenge of the Sith. And by that time, their footprint in YouTube was set. And not just that, though. They were getting attention from Hollywood. So they would continue to do the best of the worst. They would continue to do Half in the Bag. And when people... And this is not a knock against them. But when people use the term virtual friends, they were the personification of that. And that's not a knock. It really did feel like you were sitting down and listening to your buddies joke about movies. Because they were normal. They didn't have an acting coach there. They didn't have a marketing team behind them. They didn't have someone saying what they can and can't say. And they were pretty politically correct to begin with. You know, some people get upset about some of the stuff they said, but you know what I mean? It came off as so authentic that it was like you going to your buddy's house and hearing them talk about a movie they saw. And it worked because of that, and you had people all over watch these guys. Now, I may be giving them more credit in the general population. You may go, I've never heard of these guys before. But mainstream Hollywood did know these guys. They would get talked about in those circles because their reach was so big and because they had such an entertainment base. If you loved movies or you made movies, you watched these guys. Mainstream Hollywood directors and actors would comment on what they were saying, on what they were doing. In fact, their power in Hollywood was such that this has come back to haunt them. But after the prequel takedown videos had all been done, at one point, the new Star Trek movie had come out that had been directed by J.J. Abrams. And Mike Stolkasa said, I think J.J. Abrams should direct the next Star Wars movie. And George Lucas should direct people to their seats. People blame Red Letter Media for J.J. Abrams getting the new trilogy and ruining Star Wars. There are a lot of people who believe that Mike's joke resonated with Hollywood. And here's the thing, that first Star Trek movie was really, really cool. And J.J. Abrams showed that he could do some space stuff. But Star Wars definitely fell off with, what was that movie called? The Force Awakens. And it's really hasn't recovered. And people are mad. People are mad because they spend so much time watching these movies. And they blame Mike and Red Letter Media for getting J.J. Abrams in the director's chair for that. I could go on and on. There's been a ton of controversy, but a ton of celebrations with them. I was just laying all that out because they are normal guys who have a oversized presence in the voice of Hollywood. So the conspiracy theory, I had to lay all that out because if you don't know who Red Letter Media, or even if you do, that's good background information to explain why this conspiracy theory may actually be true that we're about to talk about. This was posted online by an anonymous source, and he said that he had been stalking, not physically, but digitally, Red Letter Media for a long time. That happens a lot. I've gone to film forums and film boards where people have analyzed video by video certain behavior or characteristics or mannerisms with the cast of Red Letter Media and trying to find some meta narrative or some secret that they're hiding. People really do pour through this stuff. I'll put it in the show notes. I have a video. I don't know what to make of this either. But I found this on one of those sites where they were going. There's something up with these guys. There's something phony about these guys. They were detailing this stuff, and I don't remember what they detailed, and I didn't save that, because honestly, it was nonsense. But they did post a video, and I don't know what to make of it. Apparently, the living room set that they watch these movies in, that I've watched for hours upon hours upon hours, because I've watched a ton of their content, possibly is not real. It's possible that the set is green screen, but the dark room behind them with all the video cassettes that make it look like, again, you're going to your buddy's basement to watch these movies on his big screen. In the video, you see them sitting on the couch, but you see a hand reach out of nowhere and then pull back. And it's right in the middle of the frame. So really, it's one of three things. One, it's a fake. The video is not real. Someone digitally inserted the hand. Two, the set is not real. And that's all green screened back there. It may have been real at one point, but now it's green screen. For whatever reason, maybe to save costs, they do operate in a pretty bad part of town. Or three, it's a ghost. Which is hilarious, right? That would be the best option for us. And people analyze this show intently, and the people in it. And this guy says, for a long time, I was actually digitally stalking them. And he goes, I collected trivia, I collected inconsistencies with their backstories. I was tracking everything that they did. But one of the weirdest things, because he's not the only guy who does this, a lot of people have this obsession with the Red Letter Media. He goes, but the weirdest thing that I found, and the one thing nobody else ever talks about, is what happened in 2019. He said he's collected this narrative from comments that he's found online speaking about Red Letter Media. He also says that he got part of this from a, quote, bizarre, non-disclosure agreement protected story shared anonymously on a now-defunct film forum that he called Film Depth, which I was not able to find any record of that forum existing. But he does say that the comments that were posted and the website itself was erased and scrubbed from all search results. So, I mean, that's a perfect setup for a conspiracy theory. It could be true, it could be false. What happened was Mike, Jay, and Rich receive a letter inviting them out to Hollywood because a bunch of people wanted to meet them. And they go, yeah, sure, whatever, that's cool. Free trip to Hollywood. Let's go. So they did. They got free tickets to fly out there, free lodging. The deal was, we just want you to sit down and hear about a project we'd love to work with you on. So they do. February 2019, the trio fly out for the weekend, fly out to Los Angeles. And the anonymous source said this actually lines up. In February of 2019, there was a week where no content was posted by these guys. Nothing. No videos, no Twitter posts, no podcast interviews, nothing. They actually went dark for a week, and it lines up for when this flight was supposed to be leaving. He also says, if you looked at, because he says that he did all this stuff. Now, I'm not able to verify this in 2025. So you can take all this with a grain of salt. But he goes, I looked it up and I looked at flight manifests. Now, do flight manifests show everyone who's on that plane? I don't know. I don't know if with a commercial plane, does it list everyone on there. I know all that information is recorded, and I know some people would have access to retroactively looking back, but I don't know if it's public. But if you had the right friend in the right place, or you were in the right place, if you were in a position of authority, that information would be really easy to get. This entire meeting, though, they were supposed to fly out there and hear this meeting. What the anonymous source says is that Mike, Jay, and Rich left Milwaukee, flew to LA, and they were back in Milwaukee within 72 hours. In April 2019, someone posted on the website Film Depth, which may or may not have ever even existed, saying, hey, I have a friend, which, obviously can always be, again, made up. My dad works at Nintendo meme, but I have a friend who's a valet in Hollywood, up in the Hollywood Hills, and there was a big event up there recently that involved 3, quote, Midwestern guys, unquote. They definitely stood out among this Hollywood crowd that was currently at the house. These 3 Midwestern guys, who we can assume are Mike, Jay, and Rich. After midnight, they are driven to this estate, and they enter this home. The anonymous source says that the description of this estate matches old records of a Cold War-era property once owned by a CIA-affiliated production company. Now, I will say, if you type in CIA-assisted movie production company, it's all of them. It's all of them. I mean, there have been books written about 1 or 2, or how the CIA influenced the music industry in the 60s and all that stuff. I would argue there are probably more movie production companies that are not assisted by the CIA, especially the big ones, than are. What happened was this. This is the story that comes out of this. Jay, Rich, and Mike are brought before. Apparently, this is the valet was there. And he was picking up stories. Other people were talking about it for the things he didn't directly witness. Other people at the event were telling him what happened. They go, he didn't specify it was Jay, Mike, and Rich. He just said it was 3 Midwestern guys. But the friend who posted it says, I think he was talking about Red Letter Media. This is the story. Jay, Mike, and Rich are brought before a group of masked financiers. So just imagine that, right? It's after midnight. You've flown across the country. You're brought into a room, and it's a bunch of people wearing eyes wide shut masks. They give Mike, Jay, and Rich a offer. What we want to do, guys, is we want to create a new media. Not a new movie, not a new genre, a whole new type of media where it's going to be part film, part narrative programming, and part ritual. And we want you guys to help us with it. These young men, or heroes from Milwaukee, are then shown a VHS tape. One of the financiers is holding a VHS tape, and it's labeled the commentary engine. The financier says, you made this. You made this. We are going to give you 100% credit for the commentary engine. We will give you an unlimited budget. Any star you want, you got. All of you, huge salaries to create the commentary engine. But once you start this project, you cannot stop. This will go on for the rest of your lives, and you will never be able to back out of it. Mike, Jay, and Rich, being normal people, despite them having aspirations for Hollywood, immediately back out. They want nothing to do with it. Now, they do love making movies. They've made a couple themselves, and they have not really set the world afire. They do want to be creative in that way. But because they're normal, these guys say, we don't want any part of it. And so they flew back. Their entire trip was 72 hours. They landed back in Milwaukee. Apparently, there is a Patreon Q&A, which was posted to Red Letter Media's Patreon, where Rich Evans made a comment about some, quote, weird LA crap, unquote, and then Mike quickly changed the conversation. That apparently happened, but again, it's deleted, so we don't have any proof. That's on this anonymous source. Also, after they came back from this trip, the anonymous source said, the guy who posted this online said, afterwards they did a very low energy best of the worst episode, which would line up with that timeline, which was either season 7, episode 2, or season 7, episode 3. It was written, quote, fans at the time commented on how off they all seemed, especially Mike. He barely made eye contact with the camera. Rich said nothing the entire episode unless directly spoken to, unquote. So this idea that they were still very shaken up by what they had experienced in LA. The post ends with this, quote, they've never spoken publicly about the 2019 trip. They've turned down every serious Hollywood collaboration since. Even when offered funding by a major platform in 2021, allegedly Netflix, they declined. Mike's comment at the time, quote, we've seen where that road leads. None of this will ever be officially confirmed, but the events are real, and Red Letter Media seems very careful not to bring up anything about early 2019. They clearly saw something they weren't supposed to, and whatever it was, it scared them, and they chose to come back to Milwaukee and never look back. It's a really interesting story. And it makes sense. It really, really does. So let's break it down here really quickly. Recently on an episode, and actually I've been saying this for years, when we talk about the Illuminati, when we talk about these powerful groups, a lot of times people lump in Katy Perry and Rihanna with these faceless organizations that try to dominate the planet. My argument has always been that these pop stars, these celebrities, they're just pawns. They're lower than pawns. They have no connection to the true fingers that run the puppeteer. Or run the puppets. They have no connection to the puppeteer himself. Or maybe the puppeteer has a puppet master as well. And this is the type of thing I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Imagine Katy Perry being brought in at the beginning of her career and being presented with this offer. And while she may make music with mostly her music videos that you could argue have Illuminati symbolism in it, she's so far removed from the power structure, she has no power herself. So meetings like this taking place 100%, I believe, happen. People are made offers that they simply can't refuse. And they may go, well, I mean, like, what was bad about that, right? Here's a video. This is the name of it, the commentary engine. It's going to be this ritual/film project you're going to do for the rest of your life. They didn't say you're going to have to inject adrenochrome into your body. They didn't say you had to kill kids, become some sort of devil-worshipping maniac at that meeting. But who knows what subsequent meetings would involve, because remember, you couldn't back out. You were stuck. So I do believe meetings like this took place. Did it actually happen to Mike, Jay, and Rich? I'm not for sure. From what we know of conspiracy theory and conspiracy theory culture, it's possible, because these meetings do exist. Were they offered this deal? Now, again, that's why I really had to nail down truly how powerful Red Letter Media is. And a lot of times when you take just an average person, and this is how a lot of pop stars start off, some of them sure have a leg in the industry, or actors have a leg in the industry, but a lot of them are nobodies. I don't like using that term, but you know what I mean. And they're said, you can have all these riches and all these... You can have all this richness, you can have all these riches, you can have all this fame, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. It's really hard to walk away from. Someone born into the industry, in a way, they're already born into the bargain. They're already part of the contract. But for someone like Mike, Jay, and Rich to be presented with this, and they are filmmakers at heart. They've made a movie. I think they've made 2 full-length movies. They are entertainers. They are artists. They use it to criticize other films, but you can tell there's an underlying love of movie making, even in the harshest of jokes. And they do it in an entertaining way, which is actually really hard to pull off. A lot of people post quote-unquote funny bad reviews on IMDb, and they're just horrible. It's like a 3rd grader wrote it. It's embarrassing, honestly. So it's actually hard to pull off what they do. There is a form of artistry even in entertaining film criticism. They said no. They wanted nothing to do with it. And that was a moment. Let's put on our conspiracy capsule, wrap it up like this. That was a moment where their channel, like a lot of you guys may have no idea who these people are. That would have been a moment where everyone would have known who they were. They would have been given the red carpet treatment. They would have been given access to unlimited budgets, A-list movie stars. They would be on the level of a Mr. Beast had they taken this offer. But they walked away from it. They just didn't smell right. I think the second you walked in and they realized the people you're doing business with were wearing eyes wide shut masks, it's probably a good idea to walk away from the table. But let's go back. Conspiracy cap fully on. Let's go back to Mr. Beast. Would he take a deal like this? People will take that offer. I'm not necessarily saying, what's Mr. Beast's real name? Like Jeremy Styles or something like that? I don't know. Jimmy Olsen? Jimmy Styles? The point is that Mr. Beast, we'll just refer to him by his proper name, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast would be someone who would take that deal, possibly. Well, let me put it this way. It looks like he did. I don't know if he would have any moral qualms of working with a host of masked, seated financiers who are not up in front about the full terms. But it appears that he did. And I thought, I wonder, that would be crazy, right? 2019, what if that's when his channel really took off? Unfortunately for us conspiracy theorists, and fortunately for Jimmy himself, his ascendance began in 2018, 2017. It was when he had his first big video. I think it was like, Can I Count to 100,000 or something like that. But, you know, who's to say there was just one deal? Who's to say it just happened in 2019? I mean, when you're a conspiracy theorist, you can kind of say, whatever, just throw stuff at the wall. Hope that it sticks. But I 100% could see something like this happening. And who knows what the end result would have been for them and for us. Because, like I said earlier, channels like Red Letter Media really personified the idea of virtual friends. It really felt like you were sitting down with your buddies and listening to them talk about movies. Now imagine if you have that type of relationship, a viewer to a producer of content, and you trust them. You've learned to trust them over the years, and now they are slowly pulling you in to a hidden ritual. There's a knock on your door and you open it up and there's someone there talking about their religion. You're like, nah, I'm good. If there's a new heavy metal album out and the lead song is Satan Rocks My Socks Off, you're like, nah, I'm fine. If you sit down to play a video game and it's full of the most realistic gore first-person shooter, all the levels are based on Russia, Ukraine, you're like, nah, this probably isn't good. This probably isn't good. It's realistic drone footage of young men getting blown apart. So I don't think I should play this game. You're like, Jason, aren't you talking about Battlefield 6? No. Battlefield 6 is not that. Battlefield 6 is America. It's about America versus mercenaries. It has nothing to do with Russia, Ukraine. My point is that, you're like, Jason, it is pretty violent. My point is, quit interrupting me. My point is, Well, yeah, Battlefield 6, right? I watched the trailers, and it does look very violent. You stick a guy in the chest with a knife, you grab his dog tags, you smash people's heads open with a sledgehammer. But I know what I'm getting. It's not like I got Super Mario Odyssey and the start menu is a young man holding his guts in. I know what I'm getting into. The hidden messages, the hidden images aren't hidden in any of those examples. The person knocking on your door at 3 in the afternoon, they're like, "Hi, I'm from the Church of Latter-day Saints." They're not hiding the ball. The heavy metal album talking about how awesome Satan is, they're not hiding the ball. It's all very clear. In the ultra-violent first-person shooter, they're not pretending to be anything else. And if you get those things, you know what you're in for. It's if Red Letter Media had signed this deal and you just watch their next video and the commentary engine has begun. You don't know it, but the ritual has begun. And then you watch the next video and the next video, the next video, and they seem just like every other best of the worst or half in the bag. But hidden underneath all of that is a ritual directed at you. It's pretty terrifying if you really think about it, because although Red Letter Media didn't take the offer, you wonder how many other seemingly innocuous content creators putting out content today did take that offer. How many of our virtual friends are secretly using us to perform a ritual for their dark masters, whose only goal is to conquer us all? DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.